Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Lost Like Mike. I'm your host, Mike Gonzalez. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. Appreciate the comments on the last episode. Thank you for subscribing. I might have said that one. Today I'm going to start with talking about being thrown off my game. And I apologize for that. You think about how delicate, you find out how delicate your hold on being relaxed, on being adjusted, on having a hold on your faculties. When something interrupts your game, changes it up, messes with the flow of things. Today we had a different pastor, an altogether different guy came up and talked. And I had seen him before in the past. No knocking. I'm not knocking him, his abilities. He's just different, right? And, there's a bit of struggle that you could see in him. He even talks about having his struggles with things. But even though that the entire message was positive, it felt heavy and dark. Like he would preface things by saying just really negative things. And so it was difficult, I mean, I'm not to say that the normal guy that I go see is 100%, super positive all the time, and the outlook's always sunny. It's just that you get somebody different walks up to the podium, and all of a sudden you're like, what are we gonna be in store for today? And it's like, I think the last time he was all about brimstone and all this kind of stuff, just really dark. Today, the entire message was about joy and happiness, but, it was through the lens of how can we find our joy in such a horrible world. And I couldn't find it. I mean, I couldn't find the peace in the message. And it threw my whole thing off. Like, what I discovered was, we went right afterwards. My daughter has a bike rodeo, so she's outgrown her old bike. So we went to go to take a look at some bikes for her. She has her difficulties being with hip dysplasia and everything, so it's really important that we get her a bike that she can, that's the correct size for her, that she can use and whatnot, right? But I figured out very quickly that any joy that I have comes from my kids. And my son is about to graduate from high school. A lot of the delusions, that's a bad word, but it's pretty close to it. But a lot of the the lack of knowing of the bad of the world has gone away. Like he's been exposed to a lot of, by that age, and the internet and, so on. My daughter still has a very rainbows and unicorn view of the world. Although she'll surprise you sometimes with some of the things that she says, as far as just, I think that when you're young, you have a more pure you're a more pure conduit of like larger concepts that, you know, it's not muddied by nuance of like the crap that you've seen and gone through. But so sometimes, I mean, we come out of service and she's in her Sunday school class and she comes up, gives me a big hug, and I just, you know, I feel a little bit better, you know. But so we went and we found her a bike and things, and it's not like a distraction to the things that go on in one's mind, but I do often say this, and you know, this is one of the things that I repeat from time to time, is that when you're of service to others, then it lightens your load of what's going on in your life or what's going on in your mind or what have you. But that was nice to sort of just, the biggest problem in the world is which color bike, and tassels or no tassels, or reflectors, you know, bells, you know, that type of thing is so much. It was nice to only think about that for a bit, you know. But coming off of last week, was a lot happened in the previous week, and it seemed like I had a lot to talk about. Not to say that this week there was nothing going on. It was a good week. But a lot of the things that happened in the previous week kind of colored what I was going to talk about. And so today it's more just whatever's on my mind. It's kind of what comes up in this conversation. I reached out to a few guests, and I'm trying to coordinate some of that. You know, this is, although I enjoy this intimate dynamic of just me speaking outright, and sometimes I really do feel like I'm tapping into something, you know, raw and exposing it. I kind of want to see that with somebody else in the picture. I had a dream, a couple dreams recently that I wanted to sort of put out there in the universe and see what y'all think about them. One was, I was in, and sometimes I can't really, get into why, but sometimes my dreams are in the backdrop of a movie theater. Sometimes it's a movie theater, but for all in the way that it appears, you know, the stadium seating but sometimes no movie screens. It's just, and you just know that it's the context of what you're seeing. Sometimes I, will walk down hallways of where auditoriums are, and it'll just be the backdrop of the setting of whatever else is going on. In this instance, I was hanging out in an auditorium, and I realized that there was okay, so I was talking to someone. Okay, I was talking to Kevin Bacon, and he was telling me, things in a very sort of kind and gentle way, and then a little while later, I was in another part of the theater, and there was Kevin Bacon again, but he was very like hostile and like brooding and dark and like kind of menacing. And what I realized, and this is so silly, but when I woke up, I'll tell you what I thought of, which might be a cool thing. But anyway, I realized that I was dealing with like a like an angelic and a demonic representation uh, of Kevin Bacon, like which more. So I was basically like being like, if you know, ever seen those movies where like there's a little angel on one shoulder and a little devil on the other? I was being sort of courted by both, right? And I woke up thinking, I remember waking up and going, and that's just so stupid even looking back on it. Like that would be a really cool TV show. Like, but it really wouldn't, guys. I was just in that half asleep sort of, you know, maybe somebody can pitch it. And, although I think that there is there's with that guy that was, from, boy, I'm gonna sound stupid if I even try to name this show. Anyway, doesn't matter. But yeah, that was the entirety of the dream, was that I was kind of like going back and forth with these two Kevin Bacons, and one was like, yeah, be cool, like everything's gonna be all right, and the other one's like, why don't we go like run people over or whatever. I mean, I don't know what he was trying to get me to do, but I just knew one was like really bad and evil, and you know when you wake up from a dream and it was like, oh, that was a nightmare. Nothing really bad happened, but you know that it was like an anxious feeling, like it was awful, like, whew, yeah, I gotta get out of that one. Whatever I was gonna do with Kevin Bacon was bad, you know. That was where I was at with that one. I just knew it was a bad dream. I had a dream with my brothers, and we were in this house. I think it was probably kind of a amalgamation of like my old house and my new house, but everything was kind of going good, and we were laughing and talking. I've had these dreams, often. I once had one with my dad. He was in the backyard of my old house, and he was asking me to go outside and play. And in the dream, I was very lucid, and I said, like something to the effect of, I know you've passed on. And it was like this knowingness where it was like, yeah, like there was something to say, and it was like, I gave him a big hug. It was very real. But I've had those kind of dreams, where they're very lucid, and they're with people that have passed away. And this one, I had a dream, and I'm hanging out with my brothers in this house, and my brother is looking at the photographs that he left behind. And he says, oh, I should really show these to my friend. And then he said, I'll call her up. And then he looked at me, and then he was like, oh shit. I'm not there anymore. I'm not alive. I can't do it. And I got sad, and I said, listen, the way you're talking to me, you should go talk to her. And like, I can, I would think that's really cool if she came and asked me based on a visitation, like in dreams or something. We had this whole conversation about this. And then I woke up, I was really sad. But then I thought, hey, maybe that might be cool if that somehow manifested. And, I was able to, get photographs to his friends or whatever, based on him contacting them in some otherworldly way. I don't know if you believe in ghosts. some of y'all will and some of y'all won't. There's always that ratio out there. Or what your take on afterlife is. If somebody knew, then, that'd be cool. I mean, I remember when my neighbor passed away, I swear, and I don't, I remember just sort of half waking up in the middle of the night and looking over to past where, my wife was. And I swear I saw him sitting with a hat and a coat like he was at a bus station waiting to split. Just sitting there. And then, you kind of wake yourself up like, what? Why is there a dude sitting in my bedroom? And of course, nobody's there. And it may have, some dream interpretation might say that was just me thinking about a neighbor passing, something like that. And, my subconscious, et cetera, the story. And maybe it was my neighbor just paying a visit before he split this plane. Who knows? I don't know. I know my daughter said that she, I overheard her telling my wife in the morning, she said, I had a nightmare last night, she says. And she says, I was really scared. And then I felt God's hand touch me. And God said, everything is going to be okay. Like, I got you. Right? And, and she was like, okay, cool. And like, just went back to sleep or continued sleeping. Like, that, it's like I tell you, that kind of, she's at that age where she has that perfect, without any sort of question or, she's just, all right. Which is funny that I say that, because I'll tell you something else. You ever watch cop shows? I have a thing, okay? I need to occupy myself by watching. I do 2-3 things at once. Perhaps it's, I often talk about it being so bad, not wanting to hear thoughts or think thoughts, that I multitask and overstimulate myself. But I watch cop shows. I don't know if you watch cop shows. I watch cop shows. And here's something that I've discovered that bothers me to no end. It frustrates me so bad. I'll tell you what it is. They'll take a suspect into the questioning area. They'll set him at the other end of the table. And they'll say, why'd you do it? And the guy will say, I didn't do it. Well, your fingerprints were found in the building, whatever, on the door, on the knife. You were covered in blood. Now let me tell you what happened. And this is all the time I go, oh, okay, cool. So he didn't do it. Who must have done it? And then the cop will go, just tell the truth. We got you on video. And the guy says, okay, I did it. And I think, God dog it, they got me again. Like, I am so gullible, or so believing in people's stupid stories, that I would be the worst. Like, I don't know why I do it, but I'm telling you, every time I watch one of these cop shows, it happens legitimately all the time. I'll say to myself, okay, so that person couldn't do it, because that's what I really was thinking was doing it. But I mean, he said he didn't do it. Okay. And he had he produced an alibi. And then the cop will go, well, your alibi, you just recorded over the tape, and that's why you did it. And the guy says, okay, you got me. And I'll get, But I'm not an idiot. It's just that I want to believe in the best of people. So if somebody says I didn't do it, I want to believe it. But I think about that sort of naivety in the real world, like out and about, where so many times in my life, I feel so adamantly that somebody is sabotaging my life or trying to make me look bad to make themselves look good, um, or they're just plain out doing wrong, and then they'll say, "No, you got it all wrong. Listen, this is what's actually happening. I never said that," and whatever. And then me walking away going, "Good," because I don't want them to be like, trying to hurt me or think of that they would be so low as to like mess me over like that. And then for one way or another, it's discovered that was true the whole time, that they were nefarious and that they were just lying, straight to my face. I remember being like super little. I must have been like 5, 6, maybe 7 years old, and playing out front of my old house in this dirt patch. And I had this set of marbles. There were little itty bitty marbles, and then bigger ones about the size of a quarter. We'd call those jumbo marbles. And I had a bag. They used to come in this net bag of marbles. And I'm just by myself minding my business in the front yard of my old house. And I had drawn this circle in the dirt, and I'm rolling these marbles. And then this little boy, I don't think he had his big brother with him at the time, but this boy, he must have been 10, 11, comes over and "Hey, what you doing?" kind of thing. And then he's like, "Oh, well, you know how this works." And he's like, "I'll get one of these marbles and I'll sit on this side and I'll flick it with my thumb and I'll roll it. And if my marble hits your marble, then that marble's mine. And if I miss, you just leave it wherever it stays in the circle, okay?" And long story short, this fool like scams me out of all of my marbles. And I remember sitting there in the dirt because he ran the marble game and hit all the marbles. And he's like, "Well, there you go. I win. Bye." And he dipped out with my marbles. I don't know why I just thought of that. But, even at a young age, I mean, you remember these times where people burn you. Like, I remember my mom, we were there at the house. like my mom scammed me. No. No, we were getting ready to go have, like, you hear the ice cream truck coming from far away. Ice cream truck, for those who don't have those wherever you're at, is basically just a van or a van-like vehicle that they've converted into selling, ice cream cones or snow cones or different types of ice cream or candies out of the back of the thing. And they usually blare like a music of some sort, but not, it has to be like this, like music box kind of sounding music, or like different kind of music, because nowadays if you hear blaring music, it's probably just some youth blasting their car stereos. But anyway, so I could hear the ice cream truck, dig-a-dong-dong, dig-a-dong-dong, sounds like a ringtone, but it's not. It's the ice cream truck, and it's coming. So I said, "Mom, can we get ice cream from the ice cream truck?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'll be right out." So she was indisposed, probably in a room or in the bathroom or something like that. And me with my 7, 8-year-old mind, if that, said, "Dude, we're going to miss it." So I said, "Brilliant idea. I'll go into my mom's purse. I'll get a little bit of money. I'll go get the ice cream. I'll be back before she's even done doing whatever, so we don't miss the ice cream truck." And, he was slowly getting ready to pass. our area. And long story short, I grabbed a $20 bill. I didn't know I did. But here was my faith in humanity. So I ran out. I bought whatever items, gave the guy the money, and this, I'm not going to judge the man, but this ice cream truck owner only gave me like a little small portion of change back. And I said, "Thank you, sir." Turned around, ran back inside. And I was in so much trouble. I do remember the story partially because my father waited for the next time that the ice cream truck guy came through and like lit him up, like straight up. Like that he scammed a kid out of money. And, my dad could go 0 to 60 pretty quick, like when it came to like that kind of thing. I remember, I don't mean to jump from story to story, but it's kind of where my mind's at, so whatever. I remember being at, we were at this like grocery store. This is kind of things that would happen back in the day. And I was little, must have been 4 or 5, maybe older, I don't know, around there. And they had this circle set up with these rails, and they had these ponies. And the ponies would just walk in a circle, like we'll say 3 or 4 of them, just in this big circle in the parking lot of this grocery store. Kind of like one of those special events where they're having like, you say with a petting zoo or like this, was just basically like these 4 saddled ponies going around in a circle. And, you would put the kid on it and they would go in a little circle. They'd take pictures, all good, whatever. Actually, I think of it, back then, who would take pictures unless you had one of those cameras, whatever. So I was on this pony, and all I'd ever seen was, or what I thought I'd seen was on TV shows and cartoons, where you would spur the animal with your feet. You would, tap it with your heels to make it go. Well, apparently this donkey or pony or whatever I was on didn't like that at all. So it bucked me off and knocked me. I hit my head on one of these poles and went down. And my dad just about, he was like, I remember him saying something like, "I'm gonna come back and shoot this horse." But I try to imagine what I would do. I remember being at Malibu Grand Prix, which is like this go-kart place. Imagine like these go-karts going around this track. And I had my son with me. And the, high schooler that was running the go-karts, gave his little announcement about like all these warnings and stuff. Don't do this, don't do that, don't hit other carts, don't I don't know, run into walls, whatever his spiel was. And me and my son were it was early on the day and nobody was really around. We were just having fun on this thing, and then all of a sudden these young guys show up, and the guy gives his spiel, and there we are on the thing. And my son, we were at SeaWorld one time, and he was selected to go down there with Shamu, and they were like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And he was like, "I want to be a race car driver." It's this little tiny little boy saying he wants to be a race car driver. And he's always loved cars and racing and all that kind of stuff. So when we take him to go-kart riding, he was very good at like bobbing and weaving, and he was, even at a younger age, he must have been, this was maybe, he was 12 or something like that, 11, 12, maybe, give or take. And these guys, these teenagers, whatever. So we're driving and we're parking the vehicles, and it might have been by accident, but he was burning all these people and really hugging the turns and whatever. But he passed a lot of the guys. and I was keeping up, kind of watching them, whatever. Um, but long story short, when he parked, one of them went up behind him and rammed his go-kart. You know, a little bit of whiplash. You know, made his neck jerk a little bit. And man, I just saw red. I just was like cussing at the dude, and you know the attendant who was all up on everybody else. You know, on us when it was just us, and making sure that we didn't, you know, tap the rails or each other or anything. And he was just on his cell phone, you know, doing God knows what, and somebody was doing something that he directly said, and he didn't do anything about it, kind of thing. So I know. I mean, I can imagine how my father must have felt seeing his son, you know, fly across and hit his head on a pole. Um, to it, I remember when I was even smaller, I was on one of those bouncy horses that had the springs on all four sides of this plastic, sort of hard plastic horse, and the horse would just go up and down. And somehow I had fallen off of that and knocked out. It was in the garage area of our old house, and my mom said that she walked in, found me non-responsive on the floor, and it wasn't like you could be like 911. And it was, you know, probably a long time ago. So, and that she carried me out to the front yard, yelling "help," and then was like trying to hit my chest, and somehow I woke up. So needless to say, even though I have a love for horses, I had an irrational fear of them very early on. But I remember there was another time I tried to go horseback riding, and they put me on this big, like, overweight horse that just, we were on a trail. It was a trail horse, and all of a sudden my trail horse was like, "Nah, dude, I'm out," and just like left everybody behind, went back and just started eating on the food trough back in its stable. Like, I was like, "Hey, we're gonna get lost. We're not with the rest of the. Can we just come on?" And it was like, "No, dude, I don't care who you are. We're going back to the stable." And like, this big old fat horse, I think her name was Rose, something like Fat Rose or something. Chunky Butt Rose. I don't know. She was done, so. I mean, I felt like the least cowboyish ever. And I've actually had horses. I had 3 horses at one point. And I had friends come over. I used to have it's a long story, but I lived at this property for a minute, and I was gonna, you know, cut the trees down and make the land, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I had these horses. I remember my bandmates came by to see what I was doing out at some property, and I wanted to show them. I saddled up the horse. I got on it, you know, got on this big old horse. It's a nice horse. And Chon, she wants to run this horse right towards this tree line. And these low branches, I had to like throw my body back like Matrix, and like, here goes a big branch right where my face should be. And I was like, this horse is trying to knock me off. And that was it. It's about the last time that I messed with a horse. Much respect to cowboys and cowgirls out there that can navigate that whole scene. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, I mean, that I have any skills that I don't. My daughter, she's actually she's going to be on the news this week. She does a type of therapy where for her hips, where it's very beneficial to ride these horses. So she goes every week to this ranch, and she was signed up for this program, so she's gotten to be very good and comfortable on horses, to her credit. But yeah, Daddy's kind of done with that. I don't really so I love animals and all that kind of thing. I just have no like delusions of how little I know about them or what I can do around them. You never know where life's going to take you. It always was a dream to have a small piece of land and maybe have chickens or llamas and goats or something. Just maybe a cow or two or something fun. But yeah, I mean, could you imagine that farmer who had to Google, who had to YouTube how to take care of their goats or whatever? My son actually, he does all that, this ag program with his high school, where, I mean, he has that in him where he could do that. I couldn't. Well, I'll tell you what I couldn't. Okay, so what he does, and he did it for maybe 3 years, maybe 4 years. I'd have to go look back and see how many times he did it. But so they basically you get a goat, and then you tend to it, like you brush it, feed it, make sure it's getting the right medicines and it's healthy and whatever. And then when there's a stock show and rodeo where you go and display your goat, and then somebody buys it and slaughters it. And the whole time that you're breeding this animal, that you're tending to it, that it's just for show, and then they're going to kill it. And I've never been able to get down with that. Like, to me, that's just, I don't know, weird. I mean, there's the whole arguments about, where do you think your food comes from, blah, blah, blah. Look, man, I have no qualms about, I get it. If I had to go hunt and, do what I had to do, I would do it, and it would break my heart. I've gone fishing. I've looked at a fish. I felt really bad. I've caught a fish, and the fish just straight up swallowed the hook, and the hook was like in its belly button. I don't know how it got down into its gut, but I was like, dude, I'll cut the line, but you're screwed. And I'm sorry, fish, because I just wanted to catch you and take a picture with you and throw you back. But now you're going to poop a fish hook. And there's nothing I can do about it, friend. I'm super sorry. And then I look to my left, and my son is cutting the head of a fish off so that he can use the fish for bait. So, it takes all kinds. I don't know. I mean, I would have no problem with cooking, what you catch, and, just skinning it and deboning it, and then making that fish to eat for survival. I get that. My grandparents used to kill chickens and pluck them and cook them. Yeah. You do what you have to do when it's what you have to do, I think in a lot of ways we get desensitized. We don't know. You go into the grocery store and there's miles and miles of all different kind of pre-cut, food, but I like the idea of ceremony when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, if you had to do it, then I think that the the idea of like really, I mean, you hear about all these like super high tech hunters that there's really no hunt to it. It's just really just like thermal imaging kind of bullets that go and find the, I don't know, I'm just playing. But I mean, it is where there's not a lot of, that the animal is in this controlled area because they've put them there, and then you just go in and take them out. And there's no real, I mean, sport's a horrible kind of word for it. But no, I mean, the idea that if you had to go up to the like a mountainside and this rough terrain, and you got to camp out for a couple of days in the rain, and you have to sleep and do everything that you have to do out in this wilderness, and you had to make sure that you didn't like do anything where they could smell or sense you, like keep, I don't know, where they don't, anyway. And then when you killed it, you thank God for it, and you have to carry that back to you wherever, and use that meat for the rest of the year and freeze it. And, I think that that's kind of a cool way. I don't know. There's something to it. I mean, you have to like, I'm not sold on vegetarianism. My daughter is a vegetarian. But like not because of what we've told her. I actually would love for her to eat. Oh, so let me say it this way. She doesn't like meat or that kind of thing. It's hard to even get her to eat chicken. I almost have to force her to even get that protein. But yeah, she just naturally kind of has a disdain for red meat and the smell of it and everything else. But I don't know where that comes from. Man, talk about taking those tangents. We were white rider rafting up in here. Yeah, I don't know how we we're talking about all those different things. I don't even remember where we started. My naivety was somewhere in there. No, I mean, one thing I did want to touch on about last week, I talked about being pulled over, but one of the things that kind of it reminded me of was something that the officer said to me, which is that I was very kind, and he said that goes a really long way, right? And it reminded me of the story, and it was not, and it has to do with living out on that property, which is funny, kind of brings it all right back around. But I used to go out there when I finally had to move away from the property. I still had to tend to the animals. So I'd have to go really early in the morning and then in the evening to take care of the animals because I had to work in the city. But my son was born, and he was born premature, so he needed to live with close proximity to hospitals and doctors, which is the way it went down. So it was one of those things where it was really early in the morning, like 5 in the morning. And 5, 6, it was just really early in the morning, I remember. And I was pulled over on my way out of the property. Like, I guess it was this long area where the police officer had apparently seen me go in and come out, And so he was pulling me over for suspicion, just wanting to find out, which I think is, in my opinion, really inappropriate. Like, I don't think that's necessary to randomly pull me over because, you know, I came and went in a quick fashion. You know what I mean? It's just, so I was, and plus I was super tired, just out of it. And then, and it was stupid because it was sort of also entrapment, because when he pulled me over, he said, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Like, when he knew damn well that I didn't do anything wrong, he was pulling me over for suspicion. It was like he wanted me to say, like, because I was speeding, because you know what I mean? So I remember saying, I don't know, man, you got a quota, you got a certain number of times you got to, you know, unnecessarily, I don't know, pull somebody over, you're going to make some stuff up. What? You tell me. And then he's like, all right. And so I already broached it with attitude, and I was tired, I was grumpy, whatever. Next thing you know, he's calling for backup. Another car calls behind me. He's like, "Sir, I'm gonna need you to step out of the vehicle. We need to do a search of the vehicle." And I said, "You don't have to search my vehicle. I've done nothing wrong." And then started that whole conversation. And then I said, "Why do you have to search my vehicle? Why did you pull me over? Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle," all this kind of stuff. And I remember, there I am on the side of the vehicle with my hands on the vehicle, and he's got one cop over here next to me, and he says, he shines a flashlight into the car, and he says, are those marijuana stems?" And flashes a flashlight at the bottom of, and I said, "No, don't. That's obviously those are branches and twigs, and you know, from, I live out in the country, I tracked in dirt, and are you serious right now?" And there I am, next thing you know, on the side of the stupid truck, like, okay. And he said, "Well, that's probable cause. I got to get into your vehicle. I got to look around because looks like drugs to me." Oh, I was so pissed. And so it went from like 5 in the morning, and I'm there for like a long time. And I'm talking to this other police officer who's the backup that was called. And the guy's like, you know, "Yeah, just try to be cool next time, man. Like, just don't." And I remember thinking, like, this, like, are you serious? Like, this guy gets to come up and be like however he wants to me, and I've just got to be like, "Yes, sir, no problem." You know what I mean? Like, fake kindness, just so I don't have my whole morning taken away at his, you know, this vulgar display of power. All right, cool, whatever. But um um yeah, he was just basically like, "Yeah, man, just be cool, man. Next time you get pulled over, just don't give them a reason." That was my introduction to that ability of law enforcement to, and I have a lot of respect for law enforcement. They have to go into a lot of bad situations and deal with things that that are dangerous and sketchy, um, and a lot of times for less money than what they deserve. Who knows, you know? But because how do you put a price on that? Having to risk your life for a lot of the people that I've gone out and seen, and just know that, I'll tell you one thing: a lot of times, the power is put into the hands of, and the rights are in the benefit of the criminal than they are to the actual police officers. Just a basic example would be like the restrictions on purchasing and having guns on your person, right? So if you're a law-abiding citizen and you want to have a gun, well, it's far easier if you were just a horrible person and a lawbreaker. You can purchase them on the black market and just get them out. And you might say, now where would you go and find that, sir? You know so much about this. Well, just go to a gun show and you'll figure it out. I'm not judging, but whatever. I remember another time I was, this will be the last story and then I'll quit. I promise. I was working at one of the places that I worked, and a police officer came in and said they were looking for somebody that worked there. So I paged the person. I said, so-and-so, I need you to come to the front. Nobody came. And this dude, and he's like, I said, you know what? I'll take a look around, man. That's all I could do. I'm supposed to be over here, but I'll do you a solid. And I walked around, I came back, I said, dude, I can't find this person. And he had an attitude from the second he got there, but for some reason, he just turned it on and wanted to be a super jerk about it. So he was like, if I find out that you're trying to hide this person from me and you're trying to get this person to get away without me knowing. And I said, hey, no need for that. I'm here and I'm doing my job. You want me to do your job for you too? Well, don't be mad when I don't get the results you want. Oh man, I need your name, sir, and I need your information. I said, now what, dude? Now I'm in trouble because you didn't find your person? Whatever, dude. So I gave him my information because it's something that I believe you have to do in that instance. But let me tell you this, and let me ask you if you think that it's suspicious. That same day, I'm not 2 blocks from my house, and I get pulled over. And they say over the thing, keep your hands on the wheel, whatever. And then they come at me with flashlights and coming around, around the corner. Sir, whatever. And tell me why my name was, he said my name and my license number, right, was shown as being approach with caution. This person's, violent or, a dangerous person. True story. The guy ran, I guess, my license number, my name and my driver's license number, and I swear he did that. He put me on the list of, just hostile, violent people, whatever, that must be approached with caution or whatever. And 2-3 cops, they called for backup and the whole thing. I wasn't speeding, wasn't doing nothing, just 2 blocks away from my house, and get pulled over. And I said, I told the cop, I said, you tell me why my name is on that list, or why that says that on my name. I have no record, done nothing wrong. I've never had any complaints called against me or whatever. And he's like, nah, man, whatever. You're free to go. And I went and talked to a cop friend of mine, and I was like, whatever, can you find out? And I never had a problem after that, but I wouldn't put it past it. That's what I'm saying. That just vulgar display of power. Anyway, we went all around the block in this episode, y'all. I don't know what I would call it. But anyway, thank y'all for hanging out with me. Appreciate it. Keep those comments coming. Email me at lostlatemike@gmail.com. And even if it's just topics you want me to talk about or things going on that you want me to address. But I appreciate your time, and I'll see you around. All right, bye.